Be best. Hey, so I just came across something last week, and I thought this would be a really good conversation for this class. And why don't you introduce yourselves first, and then I'll talk about I'm going to walk us through some data. So why don't we start with Sophia?
This is my first semester here because I'm an exchange student from Korea. Yep.
You're majoring in theater?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Esther, and I'm also an exchange student from Sophia, the same school. And I'm studying in IST, Information Science and Technology, and I'm a junior year here.
Cool. Awesome.
Hi, my name is Alexia, and I come from China. My major is DUS, not dissection for this semester.
Wait, it's the US, so you just arrived?
It's like I can study all of the major from this semester, and I decided for next semester,
Cool.
like that.
Awesome. Where are you from in China?
Anhui, the north of the China.
Yeah, north. Yeah. And are you both from Seoul? Awesome, man. Okay, so here is, I'm going to walk us through some data. And you can't really see the back screen, you can kind of follow. You might have to look off to the side. But I'm going to need about like 10 minutes to have this, to present what it is that we're going to look at. So this is a photo of rush hour in the Tokyo subway. All right. And if you do a close-up of that, I did a close-up. I put it on my big screen, and I looked at all those people, and I saw one person who I would identify as a Westerner, okay? So they're people of Japanese ancestry. Well, there are probably Koreans in there and Chinese and so on, right? Because Tokyo's a big city. I mean, I've been into Tokyo, and okay? But essentially, that for somebody like me, that's just looks like Japanese, right? Okay? I mean, not for me, because I can distinguish a little bit, but anyway. Okay, next slide. Okay, do you know who she is? You know who that is? Anyone, do you know who? Bro, do you know who it is? You know who she is? You know who she is? You know who she is? This guy knows. Do you have any idea? Okay. No, she's not an actor or an actress. Yeah, go to the next slide. She's Miss Japan. So Nippon or Nihon is how you say Japan in Japanese, okay? So that's Miss Japan. So what's important is you look at all the other contestants, every other contestant for probably Miss Nippon, probably every other contestant, just about every single one has looked like the 6 women on the right and the 5 women on the left. Okay? So, cultural tsunami. Japan is a country with one of the highest concentrations of a single ancestry of any country in the world. And so suddenly here is this woman, go back one slide, who's Ukrainian and Polish, moved to Japan when she was 5, became Japanese, considers herself Japanese in the same way that many of you consider yourselves American, but were not born in the United States or came here when you were really, really young, but consider yourself to be American. So she considers herself to be Japanese. And she is Japanese. Okay, go forward. Next slide. So there's Miss USA 2023. And if you look closely at those faces, that is a veritable photo of like United Nations of sorts, right? About half of the women, there are 50 contestants there, and about half of them have European ancestry. And the other half don't. And that's the US. This is nothing for us, right? Here in the US, this is just like, yeah, of course, that's Miss USA. These would be the contestants, okay? If we go back one, that's a bombshell. The fact that she won, she represents Japan on the world stage in this way. You want to know, like, oh, what is Miss Japan? Miss Japan is a woman who embodies all that is, whatever about Japan beauty, or there are many things that go into it. I don't really understand what it is, but that's it. Okay, go forward. One more. In 2019, so look, you have Miss World, Miss Universe, Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, Miss America were all of African ancestry. All 5 of them were of African ancestry. That doesn't really jump out here. Didn't hardly make such a huge splash because we live in a different kind of world. I mean, it does jump out. I mean, they're all black women, my God, but it says something about where we've come here. Okay? Next one. All right, so here in Japan, immigrants in our country make our country stronger because of their work and talents. So 59% of Japanese adults agree with that. 59%. That means 41% are wondering whether immigration is a good thing. Now, the young woman that represents Japan and the Japanese people and people of Japanese ancestry who look a lot more like the 3 of you than look like me. The people who represent, the person who represents Japanese ancestry doesn't look like them. Like, this is the cultural tsunami, right? This is such a tsunami. This is such a wave. And you know what a tsunami is? Do you know, like, how? Do you know how you would? Speak in the microphone. Yeah.
I know what tsunami is. It's just like because of the big earthquake in the waters,
Yep.
in the oceans, that vibration, should I say,
Yep.
that thing comes into water to the land as a big wave that will
It's-
kill a lot of people.
Yeah, okay. Hold the mic really close, okay? So, but the idea with the thing that's, yes, that's exactly it. But the key that's big about a tsunami is that the wave, most of the power and energy of the wave happens underneath the water. You don't see it. Like, things are happening, but you don't really see. Like, it's not evident, right? The tsunami, in some ways, in the United States, has already, the fact that 5 women in 2019, these 5 women are all of African ancestry, it's like, it's not really, the tsunami has already happened here in the United States. This kind of sense of this multiculturalism, this sense of what is and is not beautiful. Now, you can argue that still in the end, there's a kind of a white beauty that predominates here in the United States, but not black and white, man. It is not absolutely clear these days in the way that it was when I was a kid. Okay. So go to the next slide. So here's proportion of foreign-born residents. Look at China. 0.07% of people in China are foreign-born, born outside of China. Yeah. Look at Japan. Look at South Korea. This is what we're going to have a conversation about. And hey, but Alexia, does that surprise you that China is filled with ethnic Chinese people? That you don't have a lot of foreign-born people living in China?
I think a lot of people want to stay in China.
People want to stay in China. Yeah.
Because I think China is very convenient and very comfortable place.
And not lots and lots of people are moving there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that doesn't surprise the 2 of you about South Korea, right? Because this is a big conversation in Korea right now, the number of foreigners. Well, hang on, we'll come back to it. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to show you some things about Korea. Go to the next slide. So Koreans who prefer a multicultural society over one that is ethnically homogeneous. Okay, so when you think about this classroom, you think ethnic homogeneity. And it's just like, look at this, just this wave of people who are really different. It's so different. Look, in 2010, 60% saying like, yeah, we think a multicultural society. That dropped to 44, but it dropped to 44 largely because of COVID. Because Koreans and Chinese and Americans and everybody is starting to think about, wait, this kind of global world, is this really the world we want to be in? Because, Koreans in particular were really concerned that it was outsiders that were bringing COVID, right, the virus. But so that dropped, but it's since gone back up, but it hasn't, as far as I can assess, it has not gone back up to 60%. And that means that 40% of Koreans are saying like, yeah, I think this ethnic homogeneity is kind of cool. And in China, the number of people who say, I think ethnic homogeneity is pretty cool, is probably even higher. Okay? So this is what we're going to talk about today. Ethnic homogeneity. Like how is it to live in a world that is ethnically homogeneous here? So I want to show you a few more photos, and then we're going to start our conversation. I'm just going to talk about Korea. So these are top actors in Korea. They all look Korean. They're all ethnically Korean. These are the top actors. Go to the next slide. Here's the bottom half of that. Every single one of them. There's not a single person on there that is not, except that dude V. Who is that? Do you know who that is? He's Korean also? All right, look at that. The guy Rain is Korean too. Yeah, they're all Korean. Go to the next slide. Here are top K-pop acts. I don't think there's any Westerners in there at all, right? In these particular? I don't think anybody. Is there anybody? No, they're all Korean. And they're ethnically Korean. There are many. Yeah. There are many. You could say there are a lot of K-pop groups that have people who are not ethnically Korean in them. But, these, okay, go ahead. Next one. This is Korean legislature. They're all Koreans. They look Korean. Go to the next one. This is the nominees for President Yoon's cabinet. They all are of Korean ancestry. They're Koreans. Y'all are Koreans. Go to the next one. This is Obama's cabinet, by the way, in 2009. Look, there are people from all over the world there. People from the Middle East, people from Europe, people from Asia, India, Latin America, Africa. This is the United States here. Go back one. That's Korea. Okay, go forward. One more. This is, Lori and I, my wife and I gave a talk in Busan, and everybody in the room was Korean. I didn't see anybody who wasn't Korean. There was one Chinese woman there, but otherwise, all Koreans. Ethnically Koreans. When I say ethnically Koreans, you understand. When I say ethnically Koreans, that means they look like them and not me, okay? And not Nidhi, okay? So go to the next one. I'm just going to show you. Here's a talk we gave at the Ministry of Health and Welfare, all Koreans. Okay? Next one. Here's a talk we gave for Savashi, and there are 17 people in that audience who are not Korean, and they were Penn State students that we brought over to Korea. Okay, everybody else looks like the two, or really the three of you, right? Okay, go ahead. I gave a talk at a high school, Korean high school. Every single person in that high school came to the talk, and they all are ethnically Korean. There wasn't, and that could be not every high school in Korea, obviously, right? But the vast majority of high schools in Korea. Okay. Is there another one? This is the last. I think this is the last one. Here's a street in near where I stay when I'm in Korea near Kongguk University. And it's just a Korean street. Everything's in Korean characters. Everything's about Korea. There's some English characters here and there and different things, and that's a bit of a struggle in Korea a little bit, but mostly it's Korean. And I can go 2 blocks over, and it's Little Chinatown. It's the second Little Chinatown in Seoul. But otherwise, and you know when you get there because you see Chinese characters, but otherwise it's Korean characters. And like, now I can go to Hyundai or Itaewon, and I can see lots of Westerners. But here, basically, I could walk around for hours, and I might run into 1 or 2 Westerners. It's just Koreans. You see 2 Americans right there, 2 white Americans, okay? Okay, so you can blacken the screen. All right, so listen, let's have a conversation. What's it like? And you're part of this too, because we're going to talk. I want you to talk about China, okay? What's it like to live in a homogeneous culture? Culture where people largely look the same and share a great deal of the same cultural and ancestry characteristics. Like, what's that like? How is that? And by the way, one of the reasons that this is actually a particularly difficult question, because this is like asking a fish, what's it like to be in water? Yeah, the fish doesn't know water. So, okay. So I'm asking you, what's it like? Anybody?
Like for me, because like before I come to America, I've been here for only 3 weeks. So I lived in Korea for 20 years. My life was in Korea, and I've felt like, I don't know how to describe actually, but I didn't feel weird. Like, it's my home, and everybody was same. Like, everybody looked same, and it's kind of comfortable. And yeah, of course, because that's my home. And
I'm going to hold right there. Esther, would you say it's comfortable? Is there something? Because I want to start defining that term.
Okay, first of all, I need to get the definition of being similar. Okay, for me, as a Korean living in a homogeneous place, we look kind of different. For me, if I see Sophia, she's a totally different person for me.
Yep.
It's kind of like similar to me and you, Sam.
Yep.
It's like similar. It's like very different from me for me, because, well, I do get it. Like, relatively, you and I looks more different than Sophia and I. But as living in a homogeneous places, we just get to know each other, and we get the difference there. So I would like to say.
Go ahead.
I'd like to say I know it's kind of different from here, and we are more open. I want to say it's more open to talking about myself and how I feel. Because, well, one of the culture shocks that I got from arriving in the United States was being the word racism. Okay. Okay.
I want to come back to that. I want to stick with this other thing. That's actually a really cool conversation. Here's something what you said. So the first time I traveled in Europe, and just kind of had this idea that I saw white people in a certain way, and people of European ancestry in a certain way. And that, I would look at a room full of white people, and I would just see people being kind of different, and like, oh, yeah, okay, that person looks this way and that person that way. But then I went to Europe, and I got on a train in Spain. I was living in Spain, and I got on the train in Spain, and I took an overnight train, like a 20-hour ride to Italy, and I got off in Rome, Italy. And now suddenly I'm in the middle of Italians. And I had this idea that, because Spanish are essentially white, right? I And I had this idea that everyone's going to look the same. And suddenly I knew I was in Italy because I started seeing people who looked like Italian Americans from back home. And then I left Italy and I got on a train and I went to Germany. And I got off the train in Germany and I suddenly said, oh my God, I'm among all these German people who look like Germans, Americans of German ancestry who knew back home. I'm like, oh, that looks like so-and-so, and that person over there looks like so-and-so, right? And then I got on a train and I went to Poland. Same thing. Like, oh my God, all these Polish Americans, here they are, there's the look. And sometimes it was like a very strange thing, just very subtle. It's like the nose, just a little bit more bridge on the nose, or just a slightly larger forehead, or like something that's just really unique to Poles. And then the same thing, I went to Ireland, and there's like 7 types of Irish faces that are really common. And if you're white and you travel and you see it, you start understanding those 7 faces. And every Irish person, I sort of put them in a box. Like, oh yeah, you're the face with the eyes, and you're the face with the whatever it is, right? So the idea being that would have this hypothesis, so I want you to talk about this. And Alexia, we're going to get to China in a second. What you just said, like, I'm truthfully, Sophia is as different as I am. Like, you see Sophia in such interesting ways. Like, when you spend time, like when I'm in Africa or when I'm in Asia, when I'm spending a lot of time, I'm spending like 2 weeks in Ethiopia, and I'm only among Ethiopians. And I suddenly, when I arrive, I'm like, oh, it's Ethiopians. And then suddenly, it's all these subtle distinctions in Ethiopians, right? So I have this hypothesis that you see a difference between me and Sophia, with Sophia in you, that's as great as me and you.
For me, honestly, yes. My answer would be yes. Yes, I do see the difference with Sophia and I. And
No, you're good.
and other Koreans or Chinese or Eastern Asian people.
Uh-huh.
I do see the difference as similar to you and I
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Sophia and I.
Do you know that Alexia's, can you look at her and say, you're Han Chinese, right? Your ancestry is
Yeah.
Han. Do you know she
Definitely.
looks Chinese?
At the first glance, I didn't knew that she was Chinese.
You didn't know?
I did.
You did know, yeah.
understand
Yeah,
that
yeah,
she
yeah.
was Chinese.
Yeah, I have a hard time with Chinese and Korean. Sometimes I do. There are certain Korean features that jump out and certain Chinese one, but Japanese, I feel like I know more. Hey, Alexia, what's it like growing up in a society where everyone is basically, there are different ethnic groups in China. China's a really large place. The largest ethnic group are Han Chinese. I think it's like 76% of the population or something. But the other Chinese, if you travel in different parts of the country, you notice the differences. I wouldn't notice the difference, but you would. But what's it like growing up in a homogenous culture?
For me, like, when I come like American and I travel like 20 hours for there. Yeah, the plan travel for 20 hours, and it's very long trip, right? And also when I come the American, the different for me is like the time, because for China is now is the morning and for American is night, and this is the different. And also I think the similar for the Korean is like some Koreans can talk a little about Chinese because they have lessons for Chinese. So I have also the Korean friends. They're very good friends, and they sometimes they talk for me is Chinese.
So do you notice, like in China, how often are you thinking, wow, we're all Chinese here? Like we're all Chinese. Like do you guys, like in China, do you talk about that? Do you talk about,
Yeah.
is multiculturalism a conversation that you have?
No, Because in China, a lot of Chinese are staying in China, but most of people will have like international schools too. So we decide to come for the American. Is our decision. So we don't talk about like that.
So most people are not going to international schools, obviously.
Yeah.
So they're just living in China
Yeah.
with other Chinese people of Chinese ancestry.
Yeah, but they will choose travel to other country, but not
Yeah.
study in our country.
Okay, got you. So people are traveling, but you're living in a nation that is a Chinese nation. And so when the three of you arrived here, so you all arrived not very long ago, how is it to come into a classroom like this, where you see people from really all over the world and so many backgrounds? Like, how is that for you?
Good. It's good.
What makes it good?
Because I can see different culture, different face, and I can learn a lot of friends in there.
So you can learn a lot of things from different people. Yeah. Is that one of the reasons you came here?
Yeah, it's one of them, and another is I can learn a lot of different studies in there. Yeah, in China we only say Chinese, right? But in there we say English.
Yeah. By the way, when I asked you to volunteer, you were uncertain about your English.
Yeah.
Your English is awesome, man. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. See that? Yeah. I can imagine going to China and I'm speaking Mandarin in front of a room full of people, not expecting to. Hey, so how often do you have this conversation in Korea that hey, we're all like Koreans here? Like, oh my God, how often are you talking about that? This homogeneous culture issue. Like, how often do you?
Like, how often we talk about we are all Koreans?
Yeah. Because remember, 3.5% of the population of Korea are foreigners, people who were born outside of Korea. I mean, except people who are traveling through.
I guess we don't talk about it a lot, about we're being all Koreans, because it's so normal to us. Like, being all Koreans in Korea was really normal to me and normal to everyone. And so because it was so normal, as you said, that fish living in the water, we don't really talk about that a lot, about we're Koreans. So
what do you think? What's most notable about it? Tell people here who have never lived in a culture like the three of you, right? Who haven't lived in a culture where almost everyone shares the same ancestry. What's really notable about how you live in that culture? What do you see? What's it like?
living in everybody is.
Everyone's the same. And again, not entirely the same, but we're gonna say it that way for a moment.
As Alexia said, the biggest thing I surprised coming into America 3 weeks ago was various nationalities and various ethnicity all together. But in Korea, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but because it's all Korean and same ethnicity living in the same region all together, it seems we're gathering all together too tightly so much, and giving a different opinion, something different, saying out loud something different from all the others is kind of abnormal, I think.
So there's a saying in Korea, maybe you have a similar saying in Japan, the nail that sticks up gets pounded down by the hammer, right? So can you Yeah, Esther, can you say something about that?
I have
So Sophia, this is a cool idea, I think.
I have exactly a very good thing I can tell you about. Well, one of the biggest culture shock I came to in one of the classes is putting your hands up and asking questions to a professor or teacher during lectures. In Korea, that's basically banned. It
Yeah, you
is
don't
not
do that.
allowed because you're kind of interrupting the class and
Yeah.
being one of the nails up top and trying to become different from other people. So most of the people, if they have questions, it's after the class, you go up to your professor, stay in a line and ask the questions, or the RAs, or basically.
So Alexia, same thing in China?
Yeah. Some like in the class we need to hands up or after the class to ask
Yeah.
a question, not in the class we can.
So
talk
for
about
me, when I give talks in Korea, I have to really I tell people at the beginning. So I'll do a talk, and I'll do like what people do around here, which just doesn't, Koreans don't do that. You're going to stand behind the podium, and I'll walk around. And sometimes I'll be giving a talk, and maybe like my wife will be talking, and I pull my cell phone out, and I take selfies with people. It's so disruptive. Like for Koreans, they're just like, oh my God, is this guy taking a selfie with me in the middle of the lecture? Because you would never do that, right? But this crazy American would do it, right? So the idea is that if you stand out in some way, you're gonna get brought back into the homogeneous culture.
Yeah, but in more of a behavioral way. You never talk to that person
Yeah.
indirectly,
You just
even
know.
indirectly. You just give them a stare.
Okay, so
Or-
what's the cool thing about? So listen, those in the West, right? So you understand. I want you to get this. Like, don't stand out. Be very careful about standing out. Like here in the West, the idea is, hey, how many of you, just Americans, one of the things that your parents told you and your mentors told you and your counselors told you was, hey, when you go to college, you got to stand out. I've had so many students just in this class come down and introduce themselves and be like, oh, hey, yeah, Professor Riches, yeah, my name is Sam. I just wanted to, Professor Sophia, yeah, my name is Sam. I just want to introduce myself. Like, okay, great, yeah, thanks. And then that's it. You want to stand out in some way. Y'all don't want to, Esther introduced herself because I sent her an email and I said, hey, come introduce yourself. But would you have ever come and introduced yourself to me?
To be honest, no. No, I think well, if it's a very good professor or I have a project related to some kind of my major or something, and that I think that you or a professor that I'm talking to or taking class would be helpful for me in the future, then I might think about it.
So this idea of homogeneity, we're all in this together. We're all sort of the same here. Where we're all part of this culture. We're not managing different cultures. We're all part of this culture. Everybody kind of stay in your place. Stay in the culture. Stay where you are. Don't stand out.
But there's a thing what I want to say. We don't say that directly.
No, you don't say it.
We don't
Yeah.
act as it as well. A lot of teachers in classes and orientations, especially when you're a freshman, a lot of people tell us that please ask questions whenever you want. Please stand up and do whatever you want. Or you can come up and ask questions. Even though it's a dumb question, it's totally fine. We can answer you all.
Yeah.
But within themselves and the whole atmosphere, I'd like to say, is kind of like, nah, you shouldn't do that.
Okay, let me ask you, like, how's your English?
My English?
Yeah.
How was my English? What can you?
Andrea, how well do you speak English?
How do I speak well in English?
How well do you speak English?
Like middle, like as one of the Asian.
How well do you speak English?
Like me speaking English. Like
Yeah, how well do you speak English?
I honestly don't think I speak English really well.
Dude, hang on a second. Bro, can you just say, can you put yellow on for a second? All right. Put yellow on the screen. Dude, what do you think about that? Neither of them, and Alexia doesn't speak English very well either. None of them speak. That's what you were thinking, right? Like, yeah, you guys don't speak English very well. Wait, hang on.
I wouldn't say that their English is bad at all. Their English is
Yeah, of course not.
yeah.
Why do you think they're saying it?
Because of their culture. What I think, they can't like bad to praise themselves.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. What do you think, man? What do you think about that? The fact that all three of them said, yeah, I don't speak English very well.
I think it's because, at least to what I know, most of the time in Asian cultures, it's hard to know when you actually are good at something or not. Like, at least with friends that I had, they were pretty rough in themselves when it comes to grades or speaking or anything in general. So maybe due to the same culture, you feel like you're not as good as you think you are, but you're actually killing it. Like Sophia speaking like way better English than me, for sure, by far. So that's what I would think.
Yeah, and your English is awesome. Your
really.
English is way better than my Spanish, you know? Unless I'm on a roll with Spanish, right, Julie? Sí, está bien, es correcto? Oh, yeah. So the idea, if any of you say like, yeah, my English is really good, what happens? Who's going to hear that, and what are they going to think? Because your English is really good, okay? I mean, the two of you in particular, your English is really good. Your English is awesome, okay? But you're young. How old are you? 18? Yeah, okay, give you a year here. Give you some time in the U.S., right? What's the problem with saying like, yeah, my English is really good? Who's going to judge you? Like, what's the?
I think it's our first language is not English, so we consider that the English is very poor like that.
No, dude, listen. You got people who are studying Spanish here, okay? Americans who are studying Spanish, and they've learned how to say, ¿Cómo está usted? Me llamo Samuel. Estoy muy bien. Me alegro conocerte. Like, how are you? My name is Sam. And if I say, hey, how do you think your Spanish is? They'll be like, fucking awesome. Like, damn, I'm killing it. ¿Cómo está usted? Muy bien. Like, oh my God. This is like, these are Americans, right? So like, how long have you been speaking Spanish? Oh, I just started at the beginning of the semester. It's 3 weeks, but I'm killing it. You know, I've already learned 20 words. I can count to 10. It's amazing. I'm great, aren't I? I'm amazing. And meanwhile, the three of you are like, oh God, okay, I'm a loser. Like, I can't, like, but do you really think that? Or are you just saying that?
To be honest, I think it's kind of being humble is one of the priorities as a Korean student. It's kind of weird saying this by myself, but No,
you have to see, you're not saying it by yourself. You're teaching people what this thing called humility is. And because it's something that we don't get here. Remember that, right? I get elevated by learning to count to 10 in Spanish and being able to say, oye, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien, yeah. And knowing that he just said, very good. Like, I'm patted on the back for that. That's like, oh, awesome, you're learning Spanish. So teach us, like, what do you mean humility, right? Like, you speak English well.
Not well, but I know my pronunciation is good as an Asian in English, speaking English, especially as a second language. But being humble is considered as a very important thing that you're a nice person, especially in South Korea.
Okay.
Because if you like to stand out and say that, hey, I'm good at something, it means like, oh, maybe she likes to stand out and she doesn't really want to vibe with me, or she just want to be the one who shines instead of other people. So you're not really respecting others who are not good at it.
Okay. And tell us why, Sophia, tell us why this is important for a homogeneous culture. Because people are all very similar, right? So why is it important in a homogeneous culture that you all maintain a sense of similarity? Do you have a sense of that? Have you ever thought about that? You don't have an answer to this question, by the way.
What question?
The question is, you don't even understand the question at all. It's like it doesn't compute to you, right? This is the fish in the water thing. If you're going to have a homogeneous, wow, dude. Homogeneous? Dude, what? I'm going to talk to the Korean. How do you say that word? Homogeneous?
Homogeneous?
Homogeneous. Thanks, bro. All right. All right. If you're going to have a successful homogeneous culture, you can't have people stepping out all over the place. In a multicultural world, in a culture in which you're bringing all sorts of people together, it's fine for individuals to really jump out in some way. But for you all to be successful, that nail that sticks up, you got to like pound it down some way. So if we go back to the information, oh my God, that's my wife up there. Sorry, dude. You got applause though, you know what I mean? Before class over, you have to come down so I can introduce you, all right? So, how am I doing, by the way, all right? My questions? They're okay? Oh, shit. All right. Very high standards. All right. So, the people, hang on one second, bro. The data that I said were like 40% of people, basically in China, Korea, Japan, are saying like, I'm not sure that this multicultural society is the one that I really want. Do those 40% of the people, do they tend to be, first off, what do you think they're seeing? What are they seeing? Like, what do you think motivates them to say, I'm not sure that I want to live in this multicultural society. Like, I kind of like this all Chinese or all Korean or all Japanese culture. What are they seeing? What?
I think because they grew up that way. Like, because like they grew up and people always want comfortable things and people always like want the way that used to live, or they feel good when they're like be comfortable, like
So let me ask you this other question. I want to keep going with this, right? Do you think they tend to be older Koreans or younger Koreans who are saying that? Or do you think it's just lots of different people?
I think older Koreans say that, like, don't want to be like mixed with another nations or something.
Would you say that in China also? The people who are most likely to say, I'm not that interested in living in a nation with lots of different cultures. I like Chinese culture.
Maybe the older people.
You think older people?
Yeah.
Like you could imagine your grandparents saying that
Yeah.
and not really your friends? What do young people want in China? What do they want? Like how many Chinese would like to be you?
Stay there.
Yeah, to come to the US and experience this.
I think in Penn State there are a lot of Chinese study there. Yeah, and my friends, all of my friends are also the Chinese, and we come there for study, different culture, different to meet different friends, and Also, we stay there. We can meet all different Chinese friends come from different place.
Different parts of
Yeah,
China.
yeah, different part of
So
China.
that's seen as like, so in your generation, that's just like it's seen as a cool thing.
Yeah.
Get on an airplane and go somewhere and explore the world.
Yes.
How,
I have a different
Go ahead.
opinion. Well, I would like to say it's like general. It doesn't really match as to age for me, because I think those people who don't want to change are just afraid of changes of their current lives.
Can you give an example? Like what might people be afraid of? What
Well,
what do you
one
think
of the
they might be
examples
afraid of?
are the job opportunities in South Korea. Well, for me, I heard from other people, especially in our generations. Well, I'm 21, and next year I'm turning senior, and I have to seek a job, well, back in South Korea. And we do talk about there's a lot of immigrants from other countries, and they're taking all our jobs. And that's why we have such a high competition of having a job and having a career to live on.
Yeah, but you guys, because of your low birth rate, the lowest in the
True.
world, I should argue, that you need immigrants to come in. So that idea is like, okay, hang on a second. Like your Korea is going, and China too, because your birth rate is shifting. You are going to be more and more heterogeneous, right, and multicultural. You're going to be.
Well, that's what people say, and that's what the world say, and that's what the statistics say, and I totally agree with that. But within ourselves, we're just, I think a lot of people who are like of the 40% of the
Got you.
people, even though they know it, they are just afraid of changes.
Got you. So this is what Sophia said. This is what you would say also in China. Hey, is there a question, by the way? Wait, bro, you have a question.
So we're getting the idea, right? So Chinese, Japanese, Korean, the East Asian culture are, humility is a very intricate part of their culture. And you mentioned how you need to humble yourself even in an environment of education where we perceive as we need to stand out
We
for
need to
us to
compete.
learn, right?
Yeah.
We need to compete. Like, what process is education other than to satisfy yourself to an extent? Because nobody's going to learn for you. So how in those kind of environment where you need to play your own game, could you remain humble and still learn?
Oh, dude, that's a really good question. Like, how? Because you are competing with people, right? I mean, your classmates. You're at the same university, so you are competing with people. But you have to pretend that you're not competing with people. Is that kind of what it is? You can't show that you're competing.
Yeah, right.
How do you do that? Well, you're in theater, so you're an actress, so like you get good at that, I guess.
I don't know what's different in America for theater classes because this is my new semester. I don't know, but in Korea, like for theater students, they don't like tell the audition information or like
Oh, really?
like to each other. They don't share much of it, and they like practice on their own. And also for
Got you.
me, I spend a lot of time practicing on my own to develop my like singing or acting or dancing skills,
Mhm.
like without any people knowing my real skills or techniques. Yeah.
So in a way, you're kind of like hiding it.
Yeah,
from-
we all hide it.
I
Yeah.
got you.
And
So
like
that's your way of competing,
mhm.
of kind of being out there. And,
Yeah, and we hide it and we take it out in the important like additions or
Got
important.
you. So some of what happens in the world here, we in the West, especially here in the United States, we just kind of put it right out in the open, and it's really clear that everyone's like, what's going on, right? And there, you kind of pretend there's always, it's what you said, there has to be competition. You're competing with yourself at some level, right? The Sunan exam, right? You want to get as high as you can. That means you need other people to not do as well. So you have to find some way to make that happen. Hey, I want to ask another question. First off, does anyone in the class have a question? Do you want to ask? Dude, you have another one? All right, dude, you have a million questions. Anybody have a question you want to ask? Because I'm going to, Dr. Mulvey, do you have a question? You probably do. Dude, can you take a, yeah, all right. Yeah. All right. Hey, what's really difficult about being in a homogenous culture? Like what's difficult about, being part of Korean culture or Chinese culture? Like what's hard about that?
As I said before, it's hard because I cannot stand out, even though I have to or must, like, want to, because, like, if we stand out, as Esther said, like, that's not a good thing.
Okay, so you're really,
that's a real.
it's really difficult to
Yeah.
navigate that that world.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would say would you say the same thing? It's hard to navigate, like when you put yourself out. How about just even volunteering? Right, so here you are sitting on the table in Social 19. You're standing out, right, because, okay, so you're standing out. Is that a thing? Are you feeling like, oh, this is cool, I'm volunteering in Social 19?
Because it's America. We're in Penn State.
Yeah.
That's basically the reason.
Yeah. So you feel that. Okay, so it's, that's, okay, Lori Lynn. Well, you should just come down here, by the way. I mean, it'll be easier, but go ahead.
I've never been a student in Social 19
Yeah.
before.
Can
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. You can put her on the overhead too, some way. All right, go ahead. Go ahead, Lori.
Actually, my question is more for everybody who's not in a homogeneous culture. I'm just wondering how much people are tracking the differences, number one, but also that what's happened?
No. We're just trying to get we're trying to get a camera on you.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, keep
I think
going.
when we talk about something being homogenous, a culture being homogenous, we in the US denigrate that and think you should be better than that, smarter than that, more progressed than that. And so I'm just wondering what people are thinking, hearing about cultures, huge cultures that are homogenous, and what are we thinking about that given how we talk about, diversity and multiculturalism?
Like, in other words, like, oh, I wouldn't want to live in a culture where everyone's the same, or everyone has to follow. You can't be a nail that sticks up a little bit. Like, you sort of have to follow everybody else. Like that, we denigrate that, right? Like,
no, I don't think it's that we're denigrating. Maybe that too, but I think just the idea, we're not allowed to think that there's something valuable within a culture that is not diverse. And that's all, and I think there's obviously benefits and drawbacks in each, but I just wonder what people are thinking who are really committed to a multicultural world.
it would be really nice if somebody could take the microphone and answer that question, who's in the classroom, ideally someone in the back. But I'm going to say this, right? When I'm in Korea, I don't go to, Lori and I went to Itaewon once, in Hyundai, to where the foreigners go, right? We don't go there. I don't want to go to Seoul and feel like I could be in Paris or London or New York or wherever that is. Like I don't have any interest in that. I go to Korea because I want to be in Korea. So when we stay around Konkuk University, that area, we stay there because there are very few. I like that area because there are very few people who are not Korean except for Chinese, but they stay in little Chinatown. So for me, it's awesome. If I want to be, I was in Paris several weeks ago, and I'm like, I could be in London, I could be in Rome, I could be in New York, I could be anywhere. It didn't really matter. But damn, man, when I'm in Korea, I want to be in Korea. So I wonder, could anybody respond to that? Like anybody who would like to respond to that?
Your wife gave me the mic.
All right, go ahead. You have it.
I've traveled a lot growing up, and I've been able to see a lot of other cultures, and I'm very, very thankful for all of that exposure. But I do find it very interesting that here in America, we are so focused on this sense of diversity, and we use this as kind of a way to say like, oh, hey, but we're so diverse and we're so accepting of all of these other cultures, but then we have so many issues between the different cultures and between all of these different in-groups. And I think it's a really interesting contrast to see the way that we're interpreting them saying that there's a type of oneness to them saying that they are pushing themselves down, because I don't think that that's what they're trying to say. I think that there is individuality still in this culture. I think that it's just less accepting to be so out with it. I think you can have that kind of difference within yourself and you can do it in your own life, but to bring it into a scenario in which you are with other people and around other people and going towards the same goal, I think that's when they're saying like, oh, hey, maybe we want to respect everybody else, and we do that by taking a step back and being homogenous in this group.
What do you think about that? So the idea is like, there's this way of homogeneity that you find your individual ways of being an individual, but you always have to take some kind of a step back because that strengthens the culture. You know, what would happen if Koreans or Chinese started to all of a sudden just put themselves out? What's your gut feeling? Yeah, any of you? Yeah. What do you think would happen? You have it?
What would happen if people like stand out and try to be like diverse and try to say what they like stand out from other people to get into the competition? Not sure. I think there was just like I'm pretty sure there will be more offensive people about it because they just want to be by themselves because they're used to this whole culture of being not standing out. But
do you feel, I'm going to ask you a different question. When we're in Korea, and Lori and I, even in the middle of the night, we're crossing a street. I'm sure this is true in China too. We're crossing the street and the light says don't walk. And there's not a soul around anywhere. Nobody, there's no cars, there's no people. And in Korea and in China, you don't walk. You're going to stand there and wait for the sign to say walk. You can't see a single car anywhere in any direction at all. There's not a single human being. And yet the chances of you crossing the street against the crosswalk, because it says don't walk, you don't walk. Why don't you walk across the street?
Because it's dangerous.
There's no cars.
Well, okay, I do get it. Well, I've been to, before I came to Penn State, from South Korea, I took the plane to JFK, New York, and I had a tour around Manhattan for like 6 days. And one of the biggest culture shock there was everybody's crossing the street, even though it's like red lines, and there are cars running by, and cars would stop. But the thing is, in Korea, you just don't want to be involved in a potential accident by a car,
or bad behavior, or be judged by other people.
Be judged by other people.
You can inconvenience a car. Why in China would you not walk?
Because I think in America, I think the car will stop and the people will cross the line, but in China it's not. The car will not stop, so you need to stop the green light.
So the car has a green light, it's just going to go.
Yeah.
And the drivers expect you to not cross the street.
Yeah, the car is first, right?
Yeah.
So the car will not stop to let you go the first. So
Yeah.
So you need to stop.
So it's a rule. The car has the rule to stop at the red light, to go on the green light. People have a rule to stop, don't cross the street when it's red and says don't cross.
Yeah.
And everybody follows the rules. And that's how a homogeneous culture can be strong, because people have to follow rules. And here in this culture, like increasingly in the United States, we are comfortable not following rules, and we're comfortable just breaking them in any way that we want to break them. And like not wearing masks in COVID or whatever the case is, that makes life here, there's a certain comfort about that. I'll just do what I want to do. And if everybody in this classroom is kind of doing exactly what they want to do, then everything works well. But because we expect that. So in New York City, people walk, cars stop, they don't stop, they do. Everyone, it's a big game, and everyone can work with that. Like driving in Cairo, Egypt, where there are just no rules whatsoever, right? Huh. Dr. Mulvey, do you have another question, or should we? All right. Hey, what do you think? Hang on, I have one final thing here. What do you wish people would really understood about your countries? What do you like wish, like you think about Americans here, like what do you wish they knew? Is there anything? Yeah, just about Korea, about China. What do you like? What's like something really cool about your country? Very cool. About your culture.
I want like people to consider our country to like really kind people, like because like in Korea, like standing out is like something they cannot do, but they're doing that for the like whole culture and group. So in the other world, they're being really kind to each other, and they're like considering other people.
Yeah, you're constantly considering.
So there is always like pros and cons to everything,
Yeah.
So for Korean culture, the cons, I would say I cannot stand out whenever or whatever I want to, but pros of that is like we are being kind and we are being nice to everybody.
To each other.
Yeah,
You're being
in the
respectful of
culture.
others.
Involved.
Would you say that about China?
I think it's very nice things. Is like in China we have a lot of traditional festivals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that focus on the meet friends, meet families, and meet parents. So I like and also the near for these days is like spring festival in China. Yeah, it's very good.
It's all that tradition. It's all the community stuff that happens. Yo, awesome. Hey, can you have a hand here? Dude. All right, Mal.